Okay, so we're going to be having a look at your set product, Late Night Women's Hour, and going through some details to do with industry and audience, which are the two areas that are covered in the exam. The first thing to say about this product is that it is a radio product, and until now, really, it hasn't been part of the exam that you would have had to have studied a radio product. And in lots of ways, radio is often seen as a little bit old-fashioned. It's what we would call traditional media. In history, the radio as a form of media was very much about communication. It was about entertainment. Before television was around, people would listen to radio programmes. They would get their information from radio programmes. They found out that World War II was breaking over the wireless, as it was then, over the radio. So radio has been a really important medium of communication in the past. And while it may be argued that radio is less popular, actually what has happened largely is that it has found its place on other platforms. So through convergence of new and digital media, audiences are now able to access the radio online. They're able to access and download podcasts. They're able to look behind the scenes at different radio shows. So rather than referring to radio as a medium that is out of date and archaic and old-fashioned, actually what's happened is that radio has found different ways to modernise and survive as an industry. Now, BBC, as we know, runs on the principles of entertain, inform, educate. The BBC tries to maintain this mantra whilst also maintaining the audience that it has. BBC are a public service broadcaster, which means that they're funded by the licence fee rather than by advertisements. In that respect, the BBC often claims to offer better quality products because the audience are invested in these products, so they're expected to be of greater value than those you might get from some commercial channels. Late Night Women's Hour is an update of the traditional Women's Hour programme that has existed for 70 years and has been a really integral part of the BBC's programming schedule. And really, what was happening here was that the BBC was seeing that they needed to update this programme. It's a really popular programme for women who are able to access the radio between 10 and 11 a.m. There were some really interesting conversations that were taking place surrounding politics, surrounding celebrity, surrounding work, and looking at a woman's place in society and in culture. And what Late Night Women's Hour offers is a platform for the next generation, a younger generation of women, to also access this content. So the BBC have seen the need to modernise and to develop in a culture where it's possible to access the radio digitally, it's possible to download podcasts, and it's possible to listen to the radio in a range of different ways. So Late Night Women's Hour is a response to the fact that many of the programmes on BBC Radio 4 are designed for men. It's also a response to the fact that this popular programme that has been a household name for decades needed a little bit of a revamp and a bit of an update. The other thinking behind it was that Late Night Women's Hour at 11 p.m. would be able to discuss more cutting edge and more controversial topics than its equivalent at 10 a.m. Now, talking about the BBC, you can bring in your media industry theory, you can think about BBC ownership, the fact that the BBC is very male dominated, a lot, especially radio actually. Laverne herself, who's the presenter of Late Night Women's Hour, refers to BBC Radio as a little bit of a boys' club. So if we were to apply our set theorist here, then it stands to reason that if the BBC is run by men, we are going to get a male perspective on events, on politics, on issues. Late Night Women's Hour is something that challenges that. So the other area of the exam is audiences, and as we've said, Late Night Women's Hour is trying to draw in a new generation of women and create a more vast audience for Radio 4. It's trying to ensure the continuation of these programmes on Radio 4, and in particular it's trying to attract a generation of largely intellectual, independent females. This is particularly shown through our set product, which is all about the home and creating a space within the home, that feeling of hygge which they describe on the programme as this untranslatable concept, something that has derived from Danish culture, which isn't purely about how your furniture is arranged, isn't purely about what your house looks like, but is more about a feeling that's created. This is quite a popular, trendy topic at the moment, especially in our Instagram culture, where we may take pictures of our surroundings and filter them. We want to create a sense of home, we want to create a sense of class as well. So linking the idea of hygge, linking the idea of home to companies like IKEA, to events like dinner parties, draws in a very particular type of female audience. Usually your category A to C1 type audience, working professionals who want to take pride in their surroundings, but also want to achieve completion in their life as well. At one stage in the programme, it talks about the dangers of outside and the importance of creating this sense of hygge, which is not just about being at home, but is about feeling safe and is about feeling secure. That's something that maybe has come about as a result of the rise of social media and the constant access that we have to the news, the constant access that we have to the dangers that could possibly be outside. So there are two things going on here. There's the need for safety, there's the need for security, and also there's the desire to take pride in your surroundings and to be the kind of person who creates a sense of calm and creates a sense of ease in society. And perhaps that is something that the modern woman is concerned about. So the audience are kind of this younger, intelligent, female, new generation, most likely left-wing style audience. And the contributors to Late Night Women's Hour are often the same, high-powered or artistic women in doing what they want to be doing and achieving what they want to be achieving. Late Night Women's Hour did run into a few difficulties at first, as Laverne, the presenter, was criticised for using irreverent language and for not maintaining some of the BBC's values, and she had to apologise, and she has had to conform slightly, which again fits in with our powers and our industry's theories. So she hasn't got complete freedom to do and say whatever she wants and whatever she thinks. And while we're talking about Laverne, she's a really interesting choice for presenter. She is somebody who represents the younger female. She's somebody who perhaps contrasts slightly with Jenny Murray, who presents Women's Hour at 10 a.m. She is northern, which creates a sense of diversity and inclusivity and almost a little bit more of a sense of the working class as well, so it's opening the audience out even further. She's best known for presenting Glastonbury on the BBC, so she's somebody with credibility in terms of music. She presents on Radio 6 music show, and she also writes a column for Grazia magazine, which means that she represents this class of women, the society of multitaskers, those who maybe hold down a difficult job and parenthood, and strive towards a culture in which both are accepted and both are achievable. If you have a look back over her interview on YouTube, Laverne talks about how she has a no-brow approach to culture. In other words, she doesn't see some things in the media as being more relevant or higher class than other things, and that actually this attitude should be discouraged. We should consider media texts to be equal. We should consider all media texts to have merit and to have value, and nothing is out of the realms of discussion. So within the same show we could be talking about Brexit, and we could also be talking about I'm a Celebrity, and both are of equal significance culturally, both are of equal importance. So she's got kind of a really interesting approach to what women should be accessing without stigma, and to what is okay to be watching, what music is okay to be listening to. So this no-brow approach is saying it's okay to appreciate everything and hold everything in equal value. She refers to herself as the shaded area in a Venn diagram, meaning that she sees everything of equal standard and everything as something that is a point that can be discussed if you're a modern woman in society. So Laverne attracts a new type of audience to Radio 4, which was always the intention of the producers with this programme, and is the reason why it's become a permanent fixture of the show. And this fact is cited in an article in The Guardian that talks about the popularity of late night women's hour. So that's looking at industries, looking at the BBC, looking at what they are trying to do in terms of bringing in new audiences. We've also mentioned convergence and the transference onto digital platforms. That means that radio has become an updated medium and doesn't look like it's going anywhere anytime soon. The other theory to mention would probably be Clay Shirky's end of audience theory. And again, this is concerned with the way that audiences are able to access programmes, traditional programmes, on new and digital platforms, and the fact that they can become part of the programme themselves. And this is really developed as an area for radio programmes. So whereas in the past the radio was very much an isolated activity, actually radio as a medium now is interactive, can be discussional, there can be phone-ins. Obviously Laverne has a huge Twitter following, and audiences can share on social media, they can discuss the issues that have been presented in the show after the show is finished. So, as always, a change in culture and society means that the media have had to adapt and move with the times, and this is really the basis for Late Night Women's Hour. It is broadcast on different platforms, it provokes discussion, and it does attract a wide range of new and diverse listeners. What you need to do is listen to the set product again, think about how the subject reaches the intended audience. Note down ways in which it is commenting on what society and culture is currently like. So, Late Night Women's Hour, BBC, Radio 4, listen to a few others as well to see if you can compare and contrast some of the topics that are dealt with. Laverne herself, as a choice of DJ, is successful in bringing in this new audience. She's successful in opening up new conversations, and this remains a popular show on the BBC.